So looking back in your very early years as a youngster in Rosehearty here, and what memories have you got with the fisher folk?
The great people,
Mhm.
the great people, the fisher people of that days.
Mhm.
Every house at this side of the town had nets, a fleet of nets, and it's a different life altogether. You see all the boys at the corner, they're walking back and forth at the corner.
Mhm.
There was no different home, there were no TVs or anything like that, you see. And there's a House of Parliament was the corner, a khakis corner, down at the shelter there. And that was a different life altogether. I think you would enjoy that far better.
And what sort of things did they speak about now?
Oh, they spoke about everything at the corner.
Mhm.
It was like a House of Parliament. Everything was turned over.
Mhm. Was it more inclined to be towards the fishing, the weather, and the fish, rather than politics or national events? Now, was it more local things?
Well, the fishing number one and the weather number two, but politics came into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, politics came into it, but it was more the fishing was the first main subject, of course, natural. Where were you going and how much did you get, that sort of thing. And they used to go to the Smallings here, you know, they had half a dozen baldies used to go here in the winter time, in the winter months. But the drifters, we went to the long lines, at the west coast, from the first week in January to about the end of March, April, end of March. That was at the west coast, at the long lines. It's a different type of fishing altogether now. That means baiting your lines, you know. You've got to bait maybe two, sometimes three men baiting, and you shoot your lines, and then hold them every 2 days. You'll be in London every 2 days in Oban or Molly. But it was a poor as a God's earnings.
What do you use for bait, Shone?
Herring, mostly herring, aye.
Herring, the great lines.
Herring, aye, and they cut them big ones in two, and it was sort of a skilled job in a way, how they should have baiting. You know, the ship was going, increased speed till she was going full speed, 3 men baiting. There was one man running the line, he had a knife ready again in case they get hooked or anything, because it's really fantastic
Power.
power.
So if someone being hooked, it could have been pulled over.
Oh, aye, but then you're liable to be hooked hauling them as well, because the line haulers, the wheel's spinning, you know, and you have to watch the snood doesn't get twined up in it. The snood is the rope, the line that comes from the main, from the back. If that gets caught up in the wheel, it'll go bang into the hauler. You see, you're liable to get hooked. So you've got to be careful both ways. So it's like in nature.
Aye. So what sort of fish did you catch at the Great Line?
Mostly cod and skate and eels. A high percentage of eels. And then certain times of the year at Barrowhead they used to get hake. But then you worked the fire bars and glass balls. Sort of shot your lines in a V from the bottom up, a V. This sort of thing. So they were mid-water to the bottom. And mostly mid-water where the hake swam, you see. And they were classed as a deer fish. They are a deer fish that day. And we just went to that one fishing itself for about 6 weeks every year. That was at Barrowhead and sometimes up at the Inner Sound there, up at Rona, the Inner Sound, the deep water there, and sometimes off Tinvegan there's a deep hole there as well. But up at Barrowhead they work at Maldon. And we used to work there, I guess, maybe 10, 15 drifters shooting a square mile of the seabed, and some fun and games, I'll tell you. Oh, aye. They changed from the sail to Kelvins, mostly Kelvin engines. It's from the sail to Kelvin, and went from they were laid up all winter. They were laid up all winter on the Port Ray here, and they went aboard steam drifters all winter, and they went to the lines and the steam drifters and Yarmouth, and the Arsenal they used the the boats at the port. And then after the end of the summer, when the school took up, the boats went back into the port into the, for the moorings winter, the winter gales on the Portray harbour. But I started my sail in 1932. I started the summer fishing in 1932 on a steam drifter, and that was out of the broch. You start off as cook and you work your way up. It's supposed to be the route, that's the recognised route of the fishing at that time. You leave the school when you're 14, some 13 and a half, and straight cooking in a drifter. Now, I was there right up to 1937, 32 to 37, and then I went to deep water because we weren't making anything out of fishing. And my pal and I, we decided to go deep water. And that was the start. Until I was there until the war started. And then Navy, in 1949, went to Navy, and went in as a civilian master with the Admiralty. And I stayed there until 1958. 1958, and was there up until that time. In 1948, I was chief officer aboard the Flamborough Head. That was at Kyle of Lachalsh, and we were doing experiments with submarines until the pressure collapsed the hulls in depth. That was at the Crowlin, the hull at the Crowlin. There were 2 years in that job, and then I came back still in the Navy with the Admiralty to Rosyth, and we did a lot of experimental and survey work there right up until 1958, and then I came back to the fishing in 1958, back to the CNET, and I had 7 years at the CNET and trawling out of Fraserburgh, and after that we went to Strathclyde University for 7 years. 7 years there, skipper in a survey boat there in the oceanography section. I combined with the Strathclyde University Hall in Grimsby, and after that he wanted me to run down that to the Kingfisher charts to the fishing again. We were here making charts, and I couldn't very well leave the university after 6 months fishing. I was aboard and go with him. He started on Kingfisher charts, and most of the fishermen was there 14 months. Then they used them, and after that I came. That's the tale of it. I was at the prawns a while, and then from there we went to the harbour, and they got factory a while, and then I went to the harbour. I was in the harbour up until I retired. So the drift net, you can understand the drift net, that was just a curtain and net about a mile long, and it was pulled in, shot and pulled in every night for 5 days a week. And it was more or less just a curtain and net, and it was a sort of non-active type of fishing. The herring giving himself up rather than being caught with a trawl. And then the seine net, that was just a case of 1.25 miles of rope each side and a net in the middle, like a pair in the bottom, and heaved and towed at the same time, fly dragging. To start off with, we used an anchor, but then it went from there to fly dragging, which meant the boat was steaming slow ahead and heaving at the same time until the ropes came together. And then fast gear, after about 4 coil, you have about 7 coil in fast gear, and then that carried on like that all day. You sometimes in the summer you were doing maybe 8 or 9 drags in a day in the summer months, which meant you had a long day on your feet, and there was nothing automatic about it. It was all manual labour. The ropes were lifted away from the winch, dragged away from the winch. There was none of this fancy things that they have now, reels and that sort of thing that they have now. The labour's taken out of scenic fishing now. And then the trawl came on the scene, they started trawling, and now the trawl's more economical because there's a terrific expense in the sea net ropes and the gear, especially the ropes. I believe they're way over £200 a coil now, and they're about 2 3/8 inch ropes compared to the 2.5 inch we used, 2 1/4 inch we used in the early days. That's about the tail of it. As regards the trawl, it's just a case of setting the gear out and towing there until you, well, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the quantity of fish you get in. That's about it. And you get to know the bottom, you get to know the wrecks. I used to make a lot of charts when the Decker started. I made a lot of charts for the fishermen in Fraserburgh, a lot of charts really. I made them, got all the wrecks and fasteners and plotted them on the chart, you see, and superimposed the Decker on it. And they used to come in. I used to have a queue of fishermen at the door sometimes, and they waiting for me to make charts for them. Which meant if you had one of these charts in a ship, you didn't need to be a experienced man. You can go straight, and as long as you knew how to work the net and how to work the Decker, you could go fishing straight away. Which means it saved you a fortune in torn gear and damaged ropes, that sort of thing. I did that for a few years before I went to Strathclyde University. Then I went there, and it was 200 prawns, an awful monotonous job. I detested the sight of it. You know, you're towing for about 4, 5 and 6 hours at the prawns, and well, when you heave up, the cord ends dumped in the deck. It's just like a mountain of mud. A mountain of mud is dropped there. You wouldn't know there was until you put a hose on it. And the hose is running all the time when you're tailing these prawns, which takes hours and hours and hours. It's a terrible monotonous job, and it's a cold job sitting on the rails of these boats. And they've got short crews as well. They haven't got big crews. They keep to make a bigger wage, they keep the crew doing about 4 or 5. 4 or 5 is about the average.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's the prawn fishing, and you've covered the drift net, the trawl, the sea net and the prawn. And then of course you went to the purse net.
I was a sledder at the trawl, trawling for herring, and the purse was sledder. We did all right with them. Did all right with sledder. You know how the purse works. You know the herring goes into a knot. They more or less go into a pillar in self-defense. The herring. And you can plot this pillar, a herring, just like a black mark in the meter. You could plot it and shoot round it with the purse, and that's what actually happens. But you'll find a lot of people in Fraserburgh with a lot more experience in the purse than me. I have a lot of people.
So, amongst the different types of fishing you went to, what type of fishing would you say was the best, that you enjoyed the best?
The type of fishing I enjoyed as regards the money, part of it was the purse, of course, was sledder, and that time out with them. But tucking to all that, I enjoyed the sea net. I really enjoyed the sea net, although it was a terrible hard game to be at. I enjoyed working at it. You got to know the grounds, you know. You had to know the grounds. There's no question about it. And that's the type of fishing I enjoyed most. But to start with, man, the drift net. We all went to the drift net, as I've said before. But the thing is, the drift net, you've got an awful element of chance in it. You shoot this net's out, and it's either a hit or a miss.
How do you compare life aboard the various types of craft that you've been in? I mean, I don't mean so much social life aboard, but you could say social life as well, but I mean living conditions and anything else you can mention, I suppose, even tripping as well, can I go back and forth? How do you compare that with the various crafts?
The life aboard the boats were the all type. When I started with they were great guys, the fishermen then. They were really good people. Most of them were religious bent, and they were really first-class blokes. And you wouldn't sit down to a meal without a grace in the first ships I went aboard. But that gradually went out of fashion through the years at the fishing. and it's a different type of job altogether now. It's more of a merchant navy style, you know. People, they haven't the same interest in religion now, although I have myself personally.
Well, I actually on the theme of religion.
Oh, but I would think the fishermen are closer to the elements, and closer to God at the same time, I would say, roughly, especially during the war years, you know. There's many experience during the war when it brought a closer realization of religion. Many a time we hit down on our knees and prayed there when there was no other alternative, especially when we were sweeping in the channel in 1940 and a trawler drawing 16 foot of water. And I know, I've seen all sets of it. And
would that be fear, though, Shone?
fear, fear, absolute fear. Because you didn't know at that time you're steaming in the dark, no lights, and a little blue light and you followed, you know, the ship ahead of you, and you were subject to, if you were there in the daylight, you were sure to be attacked by aircraft. We had to anchor in the beachy head all day and sweep at night, which was a terrific. So I was glad to get away from it in the end of 1940. I got away from it back to school. And I finished up like with a group of ships, and but that's away from the point.
Can you were a lieutenant commander?
But that was.
But the thing is that to get back to the religious point again, as far as fisher people are concerned, you think that during the wartime people were probably attracted towards religion through fear, but the fisher folk, because of their closeness to nature,
that's
you think it was to be
that's right. Closer to nature, closer to God. That's the whole thing. And that's it. But it's only lately that it's only within the last 3 years that I've really come to accept that. You know, I've accepted Jesus. Like it's only within the last 3 years.
But you've always seen some form of religious feeling.
Oh yes, it's always been there in the background. Always there, even in your upbringing, it's there. At that time, but now it's changed. The people nowadays, they don't seem to be interested. It takes a major crisis to bring that home. Oh yes.
But you think the fisher folk in the earlier days were strongly committed through this closeness with nature and,
exactly.
And hard work?
Yes, and hard work and hard times. Exactly, they were closer to the Lord.
Could you tell any experiences you've had aboard the boats with some of the fisher folk that were religiously minded at that time?
Oh well, I've been with several lads. When I started going to sea, I was with on a ship called the Eagle Eyes. I was in the Eagle Eyes 2 years, and you know there wasn't a meal, but there was. I think it means church. The name of the ship meant church. I'm not sure, but anyway, they were really religious. The skipper there, and well, most of the ships were like that. There was one or two outcasts, you would say, amongst them, but most of the fishermen were really good, stiff characters, you know, good characters. Oh,
do you think it was something that was discussed about the fishing boats at that time?
It was taken for granted.
It is, I see.
No, it wasn't actually discussed, it was taken for granted. Most of the ships had a fixed routine. You'd never think of it. They wouldn't sit down to a meal without a grace, but now it's different. Different altogether. No.
So who do you compare the, well, looking back in the steam drifters, you served in one steam drifter, was it?
Oh, I served in several steam drifters and different boats. I know most of the boats. I knew most of them, even by the shape of them you could tell, but they're far more comfortable, the steam drifter, than what the modern boats are. You had the heat all the time there, you see, the boiler. Big boiler, and they were far more comfortable than what these boats are nowadays. That's the only thing. They would the coal and the fire. They didn't have the range of the diesel boats. No, you had all the extra expense of 2 men just to drive the thing, fireman and a driver. And now you have nobody but maybe 1 man a driver, and even he works in the deck now. saves a lot of expenses. You've got an extra hand.
Do you think that life was harder aboard the boats in those days?
More of a game of chance, I think, in that days.
Aye.
More of a game of chance. He was never. The earnings were poor, really poor. The last year that I went to Yarmouth, when I came home, I got 18 shillings from my Yarmouth fishing. And my chum and I, we decided to move. So I went away deep water in the world tankers, away to South America. That's what happened. Well, it's a different life. Different life altogether. But just a look at the game, you know, that's